Okay. Just I think my recording didn't work so well. So I'm just going to repeat something small here on this particular part. Some observation. I already made a note, and let me start again. So we are going to read Revelation. This is Revelation 12, uh, and it brings out a theme of the war in heaven. It says in verse 7, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that is important, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Now, so what we want to briefly focus on is the fact of the devil being called an accuser of the brethren and being cast down. And so what we get from here, from these verses, is that uh, one, the devil was cast down, but two, he is the accuser of the brethren. And because he is cast down unto the earth, interestingly, it says, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. And the reason is the accuser of our brethren is cast down. And what was he doing? He was accusing them before God day and night. So I just made a comment already. Let's look at that comment. Let's look at that comment. It says, I've not seen anywhere as yet when Satan, which means accuser, is accusing angels. The text we've read refers to our brethren, or refers to accusing our brethren. The brethren being accused seem to be where he was cast, that is, earth. Verse 9, verse 9 said that great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So the brethren is accusing, or he was accusing, were actually on earth, and we are going to explore that more. It also seems that after this casting down, Satan no longer could be in God's presence to accuse the brethren. How do we see that? Well, we see that in still Revelation chapter 12, and that is uh verse 8. Yeah, verse 8. It said, he prevailed not, neither was their place, that is their their, their place found any more in heaven. The devil's place and his angels could not anymore be found in heaven, and so he was cast down into the earth. So, well, he could no longer be in the presence of God accusing the brethren. Why do we particularly say, or why do I particularly say that it's not talking about the brethren here do not refer to angels, they refer to us, human beings, or our fellow human beings who have run the race before us. We have two examples we can look at: Zechariah chapter 3 and Job chapter 1 and also Job chapter 2. But we are going to first go to Zechariah just for reference, read through some parts and we see what happens there. So this is Zechariah chapter 3 verse 1. We shall read some other verses. It says, uh, Zechariah saw in vision. It says, he showed me Joshua the high priest, who was standing before the angel of the Lord. Well, just for mention, we understand the angel of the Lord to be Christ. If you read the experience of the burning bush in Exodus, I think around chapter 3, is Christ himself and is also the Lord. So this verse 1 tells us the angel of the Lord, Joshua the high priest, was standing before the angel of the Lord. Satan was standing at Joshua's right hand to resist him. Well, resist him. We're going to see what that means. Verse 2 says, and the Lord said unto Satan, the Lord, that is the Father, rebuke thee, O Satan. Even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, take away these filthy garments from him. Now, we are not going to go into those details, but the details bring out how Christ removes our filthiness and gives us his cloth of his own righteousness. But the important point here is that Satan is standing at the right hand of Joshua, the high priest, and he's accusing him. Now, this is shown to Zechariah in vision, and Zechariah sees exactly what Satan does in the presence of the Lord. He is accusing a brother. He's accusing a brother before the Lord. And his accusation seemed to imply that, Joshua does not deserve the garment of Christ's righteousness. Joshua deserves to be on my side. And the Lord says, the Lord rebuke thee, and he says, is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? In other words, talking about how he has saved him, or how he has redeemed him from the fire, or from sin and all those things. The important point to note here is the way or how Satan was accusing the brethren. Now this seems to imply this happened before the casting. We have to note that point. This happened before the casting. And so, let us look at Job 1. Job 1. Job 1 verse 6, we shall start from there. It says, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto him, hast thou considered my servant Job, that none like him in the earth, a perfect man, an upright man that feareth God and escheweth evil? Now, this is where Satan's accusation comes in. Satan is going to accuse Job, saying that Job's fear for God is not genuine. Job simply fears God because God has provided to him, God has sheltered him from evil, God has done everything good for him. So his love for God is not genuine, it's fake. It's because the Lord has done all these good things. Let the Lord allow evil to come to him, then he'll see the true colors of Job. And you know how God, so loving, he allows him to do all that just to prove to him that even in the earth there are those that love me genuinely. You know, that is a powerful thing the Lord does just to prove to the devil and to the entire universe that on this fallen world there are still human beings that love God genuinely. And Job was such a good example. May God help us be like that. But the point here is the devil is accusing Job. The devil is accusing Job, and he's accusing him, saying his love for God is not genuine. His love for God is false. And God puts that to a test, and thankfully, Job proves that actually his love is genuine. So, what do we see? Satan is accusing Job. Job lives on earth, and Satan is accusing him. He has access to earth because he said, from walking to and fro. So he has access to earth, but he also has access to the presence of God. That's another thing. He also has access to the presence of God. We've seen this here. It is also implied in Zechariah chapter 3 that while Joshua was in the presence of the Lord, Satan was there accusing him or resisting him. So, two important things to note. One, Satan has access to earth and access to heaven. Two, he is accusing the brethren. He is accusing human beings in the presence of God. Human beings are already on earth. Creation is already done. Years have already passed after creation. Human life has moved on earth. And Satan is doing those accusations. But when we go back to Revelation 12:10, it told us that uh, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Now, we've only seen two examples, but it literally seems to imply that there were many examples. There were many brethren that were being accused by the devil. But the good news here is from verse 12, from verse 10 itself, in verse 9 and 8, the good news is the devil was cast out from the presence of God and from the presence of Christ, that he could no longer accuse the brethren. So it seems evident from these verses, it seems evident that the casting here being talked about actually happens when humanity is already on earth, and simply implies, or what it brings out is that there was neither was their place found anymore in heaven. In other words, much as earlier on Satan had access to the presence of God, right now that access is not there. After this casting down, the access is only limited to earth, because that is where he is cast into. Earlier, as we saw in the example of Job, he had access both to earth, he was moving to and fro in the earth, but he also had access to the presence of God. But after this casting, now he only has access to earth, but not to the presence of God and not to heaven, so that he can no longer accuse the brethren in the presence of Christ. And interestingly, verse 10 tells us, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. And why is that so? Because the accuser of our brethren is cast down. Whatever brought about the casting down gave power to the salvation of God, to the strength of God, to the kingdom of our God. It had an attachment to the saving of humanity. I want us to note that point because it says, now is come salvation. Whatever brought about the casting down has an attachment to the saving of man. And so, what we've established for now is the devil earlier, way back after creation, way forward after creation, he had access both to heaven and to earth, both to the presence of God and to earth. But after the casting down talked about in Revelation chapter 12, verse 10, he no longer has access to the presence of God, to heaven. His access is only limited to earth. And because he no longer has access to the presence of Christ, he can no longer accuse the brethren. That's okay. What we've not answered and what we shall seek to answer is, when does the casting happen? But what we can note from verse 10 of Revelation 12 is that the casting, whatever brought it, also has an attachment to salvation, to the salvation of mankind. So I'm going to stop this recording here with those points. Let us keep them in mind. Then, as God guides us, we shall find an answer to when this particular casting happens.